Hello and welcome to another edition of the CS225 video tutorials. Today we're going to talk about makefiles. Now this will apply to actually quite a few of your MPs. You'll be asked to write makefiles for differing purposes. So it's really vital that you guys understand what dependencies are and how they're used, instead of just blindly following some recipe that we give you. So I have here that I've already written out a kind of a makefile for a cake. And in order to make a cake, we have eggs, milk, sugar, and the cake mix, and some icing. Okay, and furthermore, we know how to make icing from scratch with powdered sugar and water. Okay, so what happens when we first type make cake? Okay, the computer's going to go, or Make is going to go and look for cake, and it actually finds it right here. So we know what we need to make a cake, and then we know how to make a cake. Okay, so first it goes and checks to make sure that we have all the things that we need. Do we have eggs? Check. Milk? Yep. Sugar? Sure. Mix? Yes. But do we have icing? Now maybe we do, but maybe we made some last night from a cake that we made yesterday, and we're just going to reuse that icing. But let's suppose that we don't, for this example. So Make will actually see that we don't have any icing here, and go ahead and check. Whoops. And check here, and says, well, I don't have any icing, but at least I know how to make it. Okay, and it goes ahead and does the same process over again. Do I have powdered sugar? Check. Water? Check. Okay, and once that's been fulfilled, it can actually go ahead and run the commands that make icing. Okay, it does that, and let's suppose that this mixed sugar and water produces icing. Alright, so now stepping back up to where we left off, now we do indeed have icing. Okay, we've just created it. Now we can go ahead and mix our cake and bake it and put the icing on. So that's the general idea of a makefile. Hopefully in this context it's a little easier to understand. So the three key components are the rules. So here's a rule called cake, and here's a rule called icing. And those are basically like definitions of how do you make a cake, or how do you make icing. And then following each rule, so here's cake, and we have its dependencies, or more for this example, ingredients. Okay, so what do we need to make the cake? Okay, and then the last line is how do we actually do it? Okay, so we have the rule. So when we type make cake, we want to go to this specific rule. Make cake should go there. Okay, also we have what we need to make a cake, and we have how to make a cake. Okay, similarly the same thing with icing. Now if we go to the next slide, we'll see a more familiar example that includes CPP files. Alright, so first off, we have the same structure. We have what we need to make, say MP2. What we need to make it would be the object files, and then how do we do it, which we call the linker, and we link those two to make an executable file. Same thing with main.o. Okay, to make main.o, we need these two files, and we need to know how to do it. We compile with G++. Okay, and the same thing for EasyBMP. I'm just not going to write it here. It makes it a little bit long. So anyway, going through the same set of processes, if we type make MP2, we go here. We check to see if we have main.o, and we don't. So we go here, and we check to see that we have these. Assuming we do, we compile them, and then we go back, check for EasyBMP.o, and assuming we go down here and run whatever command would be down here. And finally, we can go back, link the programs, and get back our MP2 executable. Alright? Very similar to how we did making the cakes. Now here on the last slide, suppose we have class.o. How do I know what its dependencies are? Well, to understand how that works, you kind of need to understand how the object files are actually created. So when you make your application, I'll take an example with you guys might be familiar from MP1. We take main.o and easybmp.o, and we kind of combine them into our executable. Now, what's contained in these is the separate implementations. So the implementation of main.cpp would be in here, and the implementation of the easybmp library would be stuck in here. And then, whenever we have these object files already created, we can go ahead and kind of combine those two to create MP1. Okay, so for object files, what we really need to know about is basically what functions am I allowed to call. So in main.cpp, let me change this real quick. Okay, so in main.cpp, you need to know how easybmp.works, right? So we're going to need this. Okay, we don't need to know, or we need to know the interface. We don't need to know the actual implementation details. So this file will actually tell us the interface. We also need, obviously, to know this. Well, without this, we don't really have much of a notion of main.o. We just have basically nothing. Okay, so a good rule of thumb is for creating dependencies for your object files is if it includes it, you should probably list it as a dependency. Okay, and also suppose that this were a class, we would also need to include main.h because we need to know about main.h to create main.o. If you kind of go through this little step-by-step process and see, do I actually need this file to create this object file, or do I need this object file to create this executable? That will save you a lot of time and headache of trying to pick through these difficult Makefiles. So I believe that's it for today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to come visit me in lab hours. I had my name on the first slide there, so you guys know where to find me. Alright, well, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.